I have talked about the Climate Change Acts, and I've also talked about the resources that counties have put in place for mitigation and implementation. Every county identifies their priority, but we are encouraging green energy. Kirinyaga, for example, is in the process of setting up their own hydropower station so that we can be able to provide cheaper energy to our communities and then maybe move them completely entirely from fossil. So every county with regard to energy has their own initiative, but there are also those national initiatives that take place in our counties. For example, geothermal is in Nakuru County. I know they're exploring whether there is a possibility of the same in other counties such as Baringo, around the areas of Bogoria, but even if we haven't yet gotten there, I think by and large we are moving the country away from fossils to green energy. Wind power is already being explored. Solar energy, we are moving a lot of even our street lighting to use solar. And other than the initial cost that is very high, we're looking for solutions that can be affordable and safer for our communities. What is the role of a member of parliament? One is legislation, the other one is oversight and representation. I would expect them to be at the lead in terms of representing the needs of their communities in parliament. These laws, like county governments have passed laws. They are the ones who pass the laws at the national level. They would pass the laws in line with what it is that the country is going through. And then they are also the ones who provide the oversight in the national government, so that to ensure that the national government is actually implementing the law as required. That is the role of a member of parliament. And then where they have CDF, some of the initiatives they can do to help and support what counties are doing, for example, is if you build a school, put solar panels so that we are not using energy from fossil fuel or any other. Make sure maybe the kitchens that we build in our schools or hospitals using CDF resources, just like we're doing with counties, are using solar technology or biogas so that we are able to conserve our environment. Everybody plugs in according to the rule that they've been given in the mandate by the people. Well, the conversations and the decisions are made at the national level. We need to reorganize better. That is what I will tell Kenya. We as leaders need to reorganize better. Our voice in Africa needs to be heard louder. We need to rethink our approach because we cannot come back to another conference and then again it is pushed further. There is very little that we can say that we have gained if we do not have the conversation on loss and damage. We understand the sensitivities around it, but there can be other ways and mitigations that can be put in place with regard to financing, to making sure that we have resources to cushion our people, even if it's in the short term, and also to cover the challenges that we are currently going through. You cannot go and tell somebody, I'm sorry, I understand that this issue is climate change, but let's wait until the year 2024. So we need to reorganize better. Our voice needs to be louder. Leaders need to come up with local legislation. Maybe when we go to the East African community and work even within the Africa context in the AU, the Kenyan voice must lead from the front because we have really suffered on this issue of loss and damage. Women are mostly affected. Why? Because mostly they are the caregivers. Majority, like in our country, of agriculture is carried out by women. They are the farmers, so when you have drought, they're the ones who are affected by the drought because they till and there is no produce. When it comes to drought again, they have longer distances to go to look for water. They, as primary caregivers, both of their children, or in case of illnesses, women are usually the ones who take care of the home. So the effects of climate change are very severe on the woman. And that also needs to be addressed. And therefore, even when we're doing our planning at subnational level, we are now starting to consider a gender-focused climate change financing. how do we ensure that when we're talking about water harvesting, that we are actually considering the woman and the distance that she takes to go and fetch the water, or to get even healthcare services and take care of her children, feed her children, and make sure that they are able to go to school. So women are affected in all fronts because they are primary caregivers. The other thing is also, we know that women have many challenges in our country because of our culture. Yes, they take care of the land, they till, but they don't own it. So even access to resources is made a lot more difficult when these challenges come. And if your land is submerged underwater and you lose it, then you have no way of, for example, being able to get resources even for business. So we need to have a very serious conversation on climate change in Kenya, and communicating it in a way that people understand, and bringing it down to how we can apply the issues of adaptation. How do we change? How do we mitigate against these risks? How do we ensure that we do not progress but reverse the negative effects, and then mitigate against any other challenges that may come because of climate change? Thank you.
If I may ask, in terms...
It's possible to transition a country if we are determined to transition. I think some countries have done it. As I said, there's alternative energies available. There's hydropower for those of us who are starting to set up at local level. And one of the ways that we can do is provide a lot more independent power producers. That way you don't have to rely on only KPLC, which is extremely expensive, that then pushes people to use the fossil fuels. But if we generated power, for example, in Kirinyaga, and were able to lower the cost of that power by 30%, most people will use that for cooking as opposed to using fossil fuel. So it's an issue of demand and supply. There is interventions at an international level which need to be done, but at our local level, those are some of the interventions that we can do to make sure that people are using alternative means. Solar also, so that people can get to power their cooking utensils, jikos, and alternative technology that enables that to happen. One of the things that I will be seeking to support of my county assembly, for example, is to move our borders from using fuel to using electricity. And I will propose to support them by having charging points. I don't think I can do charging points everywhere, but I think that would be an incentive to get them to transition from using motorbikes that are using petrol to those that are using electricity. And there's already those motorbikes in Kenya, recently launched, I think, even by the Swedish government. So those kind of initiatives can help us start moving towards conservation, mitigation, and then adapting to make sure that we do not continue depleting the resources that we have. Thank you very much.